and welcome back to another weekly analysis video. This analysis is for the week of September 14th, 2025. As always, we'll start with a review of last week's price action and then move into the analysis. Isn't this a beautiful sight to see? Our objective was met of 24,057. Went beyond that further, creating a new all-time high, which is what I was anticipating for last week, is the creation of a new all-time high, which we got on Friday. We opened here on Monday, we had a rally up, and withdrew back into the range. Tuesday told me everything I needed to know. Once we closed above this range, I said to myself it should reach up for 24,057 and beyond. And now we're looking for 24,300 and targeting and to target this stop run area relative to the 24,057 level. But we'll talk more about that as we progress into the weekly analysis for next week. But it's just so nice to see my analysis pan out accordingly. And for those that continue to watch these videos of mine, just know that you are in the right place. Alright, so back on our hourly chart here. If you recall in my analysis for last week, I was telling you that it should just roll right on through this gap in here. I did not want to see really any sort of resistance at all. And had we done that, we would have gone a little bit lower and potentially bang around in here. So the premise was getting through this gap and moving out of this range between this low here at 23,571 and this high here at 23,814. And it did just that. Left the range here on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we saw price gradually move higher into 24,057 and beyond that. Okay? So my analysis panned out just exactly as I wanted it to. And the important thing to note is this was ran through and it got through this range in here. Okay? Once it did that and we got that close on Tuesday, I was very confident that we were going to have a nice bullish week. Alright, now on the 15-minute chart, a more detailed view. And they open over here, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, September 7th. And notice how price moves higher and creates a higher low. Moves higher, creates another higher low relative to this one. Moves higher again, higher low, so on and so forth. So price did that throughout this week. Just kept creating higher lows and kept moving higher into our objective and beyond relative to 24,057. Now, going back to these higher lows, forming this trend line. So anytime I see that, I get a little bit suspicious. Kind of throws a nice little red flag out there saying, target me. However, that could be something to watch for in the future, and we shall discuss that going forward into the analysis for next week. Alright, so moving into the weekly analysis for the upcoming week, the week of September 14th, 2025. I'm still expecting higher prices. So the next objective that I want to see is 24,300. And 24,300 starts the stop run area relative to the 24,057 level. So that stop run area, the range is 24,300 to 24,543. So this is the range I'd like to see price gravitate towards. However, anytime we start making new highs above a previous all-time high or any important high in general. You want to be cautious as a trader because a lot of times it'll just go above that high and then go the opposite direction. However, this is based on a higher time frame analysis, which in this case is the daily chart. So I am expecting higher prices still into this range here. So that's what we'll be looking for next week and going forward. Now, once we get to this area here, it will be interesting to see how we react. If we want to decide to perhaps stay between this low and this high and meander, or if it breaks down altogether and back into here. So these are things to monitor, getting a little bit ahead of myself. Take it one step at a time, looking for this range here. All right, now moving into our hourly chart for our weekly analysis. Again, I want to see higher prices up into the next stop run range above 24,057. Now, while getting there, I would like to see it stay above 24,057. That's what I would like to see. So if we start going below 24,057 and it breaks down, it may want to come back into this area in here. It may even drift all the way back down into here because this is a relative stop run area below 24,057. 243 points of range below and 243 points of range above that level. And this is a higher time frame level, so to speak. So the ranges are quite wide. So ideally, it stays above 24,057 and continues its bullish run into here. That's what I want to see. So I will be looking for reasons going into the next week to keep on pressing higher. And again, if it starts breaking down below it, we may want to drift down lower again. But overall, bullish prices seem to be in the cards still. All right, so lastly, into our 15-minute chart here. This just shows a more detailed view. I want to draw your attention to all these lows in here that were just left untapped as it moved higher throughout last week. So this is a little suspicious to me. It could indicate that they want to sweep those levels in the future. However, we have to keep in mind the bullish premise that Nasdaq is under right now. So my next objective, as I've been stating, is 24,300 and into that range there, which extends to 24,543. That is what I'm aiming for. The first target being 24,300. Okay. However, we always have to be flexible as traders, and we have to gauge what the marketplace is doing in the present moment. So, if at all during next week we start to break down aggressively through 24,057, it may want to wash out some of these lows. So, my first objective would be in here if it decides to do that. And then if it really starts breaking down through here, it will return back into this area in here. Okay? It may not come to this one, but if we really start breaking down aggressively, I would expect at least these lows in here to be broken down. Okay? So that's what I would be looking for if we break down 24,057. Ideally, if it's going to move higher, it stays above 24,057 and moves to the next objective of 24,300. So again, bullish prices is my bias going in the next week and into the future for the most part. So with that being said, that's going to conclude the weekly analysis for the upcoming week of September 14th, 2025. Take care, and God bless.